I went out for an early morning ride this week, went out before dawn, and I thought, gee, this would be a good time to do a video on whether people have lights and what sort of lights they have and whether they've got them well adjusted. And what happens? Well, the day after I shoot the video, Rob Arnold from Ride Media puts out 2 stories on exactly this topic. So I thought I'd better pull my finger out and actually use the video. So what we're going to see over the next 5 minutes is about 94 cyclists going between the Perth CBD and the Causeway. And what I'm doing is I'm just counting how many of them have a solid beam headlight on, how many have got it set to flashing, and by flashing I mean on, off, not on constantly and kind of flashing up and down a little bit. And we're going to see some idiots that have no lights at all. The good news is just over 90% had a headlight on of some sort, but there was about 7 to 8% who had no lights on the front whatsoever. If you ask me, complete idiots, because although this path is completely separated all the way down to the Causeway and beyond, and it's very safe, and it's lit quite well in most areas, it's not lit for the entire distance, and there's quite a bit of two-way traffic, and you know it would be possible for cyclists to have a head-on collision at this time of the morning if you just can't see someone coming the other way and they're on the wrong side of the path or whatever, because we're about to see our first ninja. And of course we all know what ninjas are. They're very sneaky, they dress in black and they get around in the dark, and whoa, yes, you can hardly see them, like that person. And I'm not sure if it was my light that picked them up or the light from that toilet block. Yes, they had a rear-facing red light. Okay, that's okay, but they really needed something on the front. And they're unfortunately not the first ninja we're going to see along this path. Now, what Rob was talking about was things like light intensity, where you've got the thing pointed so you're not blinding people coming the other way. Of course, having no lights at all I think is important, like with that second ninja going past just there, just a blur in the dark. No reflective stuff on their bike or on their clothing whatsoever. They've obviously taken the reflectors off front and rear because I guess that looks cool, and they're just riding up and down this path thinking, well, they can probably see the people coming towards them, so they just think the people coming towards them can see them. No, not true. They just appear out of the darkness and you've got like half a second of warning that they're there. So, look, I think in any group of people, in a large group, you're always kind of going to get that 5 to 10% who are just idiots. Doesn't matter, where you go, whether you go to the pub or you go to the footy or you go to school, or you go to work. There's always idiots out there, and they always seem to be about the same percentage, and that's probably about the same here. Now, I can understand if these were kids, because kids do things like forget to charge their lights, or they don't put them on, or they forget to turn them on, etc. They're not adults. And you kind of expect them to make mistakes with this kind of stuff. But, this time of the morning, all these people coming the other way are adults. So it perplexes me that adults are incapable of making adult decisions about this kind of stuff. Now, I did suspect that a couple of people in those packs going past had no lights on the front. And I think that's a silly thing to do. I think groups should have a simple rule, no helmet, no ride, and no lights, no ride. Although it's hard to tell, because sometimes when there's a pack going past, riders who are kind of slightly behind or slightly towards the outside can be kind of shaded or impeded. Your view of them is impeded by other cyclists. So it's sometimes hard to tell, did they have a light, did they not have a light? Maybe it was set to flashing and I only saw it when it was off rather than on or whatever. But I did count a couple of those people in those groups as having no lights. And here's another ninja going past, like dressed in black from head to foot. Oh, okay, they've got something red on the back. That's one of our few flashing lights. And yeah, about 90% of the people that had a light on had it on solid beam rather than flashing, and I think that's a good idea, because it's kind of harder to tell how far away somebody is if their light is flashing. So at this time of the day when the sun hasn't come up, I think best idea, make sure you've got a light with lots of battery life, have it on solid beam. I mean, most of these things you can turn them between low, medium and high intensity. If you're worried about the battery running out, just put it on a low or medium setting. I mean, mine's got 9 settings, 3 strobe, 3 flashing and 3 solid. But of course the other reason you really need a light, apart from being on the bike paths, I mean look at that, the sun's just poking up above the eastern horizon there, is you will spend some of your time on the road. Here's a classic example, ute coming out from the left, I've got my lights on, ute can see me, driver stops for me, all good, I don't get T-boned as I go past that intersection. But those people in black with no lights on, the driver could look to their right, not see anyone coming, or and just pull out and splat. So until the sun kind of comes up like this, I think the best idea is turn your lights on, turn them on solid beam, not flashing, and if you're worried about your battery life, we'll turn them on the flashing once the sun's come up properly. And I suggest going and having a look at Ride Media and having a look at Rob's articles.